Three generations, each with a mic. XYZ Dictionary, the podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, and welcome to XYZ Dictionary, the podcast where a Gen X, a millennial, and a Gen Z pick a topic, and through sharing thoughts, stories, and experiences, we try and heal the generational divide, bridge the generational divide. I don't think we need to be healed. Maybe we do. I think we're doing fine. I'm your Gen Xer, Melissa Lux.
I am the millennial, Toni Fox.
And I am your Gen Zer, Cadie.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We're off our game.
Yeah.
See? We're off our game. Should we start again?
I don't know. Maybe we should just make it honest.
All right. I think we'll just leave it as is.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I think that works.
Why do we think we're off our game this week?
I feel like very tired in general. It's for a lot of the classes that I'm in, we have like really major projects due this week.
Yeah, well, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Why are you exhausted? Or
Well, partly
you didn't
I'm
say you were
always
exhausted.
That's like my baseline. My baseline is exhausted and a little bit sad. So this is maybe just normal for me.
Okay, that's fair. I think there's weird stuff going on in the cosmos, maybe. Oh, remember I was saying about my spatial intelligence? It's like the 10th thing I've walked into in the last 20 minutes.
It's okay. Remember last week I kept on bumping into my mic, the table leg.
Yeah, it's contagious.
Why are you off your game today?
No,
Are you tired?
I am tired. I woke up feeling like my brain is a wadded up piece of dry paper in my head. And yeah.
Wadded up piece of dry paper in your head.
Yeah, that's how it feels. And no amount of coffee is hydrating it, and no amount of water is hydrating it. So, well, I'm glad we're doing a lighter lift today,
Me
topic-wise.
too.
So today's episode is brought to you by the letter P for pop culture. I started to get excited about this episode, and then I was like, what even is pop culture? This is the definition from Cambridge, right? We are smart people, but I don't know if I agree with this definition. Music, TV, cinema, books, etc. that are popular, enjoyed by ordinary people rather than experts or very educated people.
Oh, you're going to get me on a soapbox here.
Oh, no!
You're going to get me on a soapbox a little bit.
Experts and very educated people can't enjoy pop culture?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so my thing is that a lot of the time that definition is very much rooted in classism. Shakespeare, which is like hailed as this great moniker of plays, and his plays are excellent, don't get me wrong, I enjoy Shakespeare. His plays were meant for the poor and the average man.
Yes.
Like Shakespeare is pop culture. And I feel like there's a lot of classism that goes into just like crapping on pop culture and not hailing it as a great classic because it's not written in really complicated prose that makes me want to die.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is Cambridge's definition. I don't think there's anyone more classist than Cambridge. Sorry, Cambridge.
Do you know where the term pop culture came from?
No. Do you?
No.
I should. I'm taking a pop culture class this semester. It's meant to be something that is popular and enjoyed by the masses, but a lot of the times it can have some merit of being unintelligent or not as highly regarded, right, as your Shakespeare's and your Jane Austens. But that's not to say that there's not merits in pop culture. And like I said earlier, I think a lot of the times the whole pop culture is unintelligent argument stems a lot from classism.
Yeah. I feel like the term pop culture inside of it has the idea that an idea bubbles up, gets really big, and then pops, and then it's gone.
I mean, it's from popular culture.
Well, yeah, obviously, but like that's my poetic interpretation. That like, because I think that for something to be considered pop culture, it needs to have an element of almost like mass hysteria to it.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
I think pop culture also needs to be recent. So
I feel like it's current. I feel like it has to be current.
It's got to be current. Maybe current's a better word than recent because bands like Queen or Journey aren't recent. but they are current. I would argue that they're still very relevant to this day. Versus a band more like the Beatles, we're starting to see move out of pop culture and more into academic study about, well, what did the Beatles contribute to music, and how can we study their music and apply that to music theory and things like that.
That's fascinating. You would consider Queen still pop culture?
I guess since Bohemian Rhapsody the movie just came out a couple years ago, that brought it back into the
Yeah.
general psyche of.
Because I wonder, is there like another word for things that were pop culture at a time, but kind of become like a mainstay? Like I was thinking about Converse sneakers, for example.
Yeah.
You know, they've become like a staple, but they've been doing their thing for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting is part of pop culture the lack of permanence that some of these things have.
Hence the popping. You see what I'm saying?
All I saw, I just did a quick search, and the term pop culture originated in the mid-19th century, but
Okay. 19th century is 1800s,
Yeah.
right? I hate that. I have such a hard time.
Me
Really, they were
too.
talking about pop culture in the mid 1800s.
apparently.
Fascinating. What do you think that was?
I mean, the first thing that I thought of was, plays like
Mhm.
John Wilkes Booth acting.
Potentially like folk songs as well, because, the radio wasn't a thing yet,
Right.
but music was.
Right. Yeah, how did things blow up?
Yeah, it seems like pop culture had to be much more like regional.
I'm so surprised that that's when the term was
I
invented.
know, that seems way ahead of its time.
Yeah, I wonder if it meant the same thing.
Like the connotations. of
Yeah,
the
if we dug
term.
somebody up and asked them.
If we found a necromancer
Yeah.
and dug somebody up
Yeah.
and asked somebody.
Did we already do N?
Necromancy. That's a good idea. I'm just gonna make a note.
We need to come up with a list of questions to ask people.
For the dead people?
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Anyway.
I'm sorry, I would still want to talk about this. All right, we'll shelve it.
I think that actually that like connections to the other side, the beyond, it's kind of like popular now. Like,
Definitely.
witchery and
Yeah.
We're definitely seeing a new. I've actually heard some people coin it as the New Age spiritualism movement, where you see like my generation, you see us wearing evil eyes all the time.
I have some.
A lot more people are spiritual,
Mhm.
and that's interesting because not a whole lot of people are religious, but a lot of people have spiritual beliefs.
But I think that what makes it pop culture is that there is the idea of it being a little more lighthearted. Like somebody will be like, "I'm just gonna pick a card," about today's events. It's much less serious.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it gets to like a tipping point at some point where it's like suddenly it's normal for people to talk about it, and it's not like, oh, you are into tarot. Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the word manifest and manifestation has gone from being a more spiritual practice into being a slang term for we're going to manifest this
Totally.
and hope for it and wish for it.
Okay, so in this definition, they're just talking about consumable media, music, TV, cinema, books. But I think adding slang to that definition works. I think we need to add fashion and style.
Yeah.
It's
into it.
surprising that that's not actually part of the definition.
Their base
officially.
definition.
Fashion seems like it definitely should be.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I also find, and I don't know if this is a Gen X thing or not, but like toys had like a very pop culture kind of thing to
Like,
them.
yeah, like Nintendo.
Like Nintendo or Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yeah.
Like
The thrill of going
Barbies.
into a Toys R Us at the age of 7 during Christmas time is a joy I will never forget. Rest in peace, Toys R Us.
are we missing anything else from the list? Music, TV, cinema, slang, fashion,
Yeah. Toys and
Tech
games.
on your list. too.
toys. Yeah, I put tech in because I think Nintendo falls under tech. And
Yeah.
I
It's
think
like a cross between tech and toy. Like,
yeah.
And gaming systems.
Yeah, and I think apps now
Mm-hmm.
are
and
are
just devices
pop culture.
too.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that hadn't even thought about it that way. That devices like the iPhone and having the latest.
Like the iPod used to be a thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And rest in peace, iPod.
Yeah.
It is no longer.
What do you think about this? So, the idea that what pop culture, the function of pop culture really is for young people to drive space between them and essentially their parents, but them and other generations.
I think that it's something that happens naturally more so than a specific like task that the generation does. I think as technology evolves, as pop culture evolves, that generational shift and divide happens more so naturally than it does because, and there probably is a little bit of purposeful I'm not like that other generation. It's like the I'm not like other girls thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think even if we tried to prevent that, it's still going to happen.
I mean, I think that part of pop culture, part of like the spirit of it is that like people are trying to come up with new things that's going to be the next big thing, and that like naturally causes people who aren't like really connected to the old things to kind of move on to a new thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you think it's intentional?
I think that it's not intentional. It's not intentionally like separating generations, but it's intentionally like I want to be the next big thing.
Right.
Mhm.
So
So-
it's like a natural byproduct
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
the intentional generation of like a new idea.
Yeah, it seems more like that to
Mhm.
me, and not like intentionally separating yourselves from the past.
Let's do some like round robining about like what's a movie from your generation that you think is like the epitome of like pop culture for your generation.
Oh.
So is it made by my generation, or does it just represent my generation?
I think it
because
can-
I think that a lot of movies that represent a generation are made by older
Mhm.
generations.
I think that's true. I think that's definitely true. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be made by your I think it just needed to be consumed and elevated by your generation.
Okay, I'm gonna maybe need to think about it.
We need a minute.
I kind of have one.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking of this. So I think for my generation, the hard thing is because I was literally just thinking about how, like, I can't remember the last time there was a super impactful blockbuster.
Yeah.
Barbie, probably. But as far as something that has, like, lasting impressions throughout the years, I think of, like, Lord of the Rings and Star Wars
Yeah.
and Titanic and movies like that, and Avatar to a lesser extent, because Avatar actually isn't as ingrained in pop culture, even though it's like the highest grossing movie, and it's second highest now. I think Endgame knocked it down. I think, okay, that's going to be my answer, is the MCU. I'd say the MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that makes
wait,
a lot of sense.
My
I wanna
other
c-
answer was Twilight.
I think that counts because what I want to clarify is like, do you think that longevity has to, like, does something have to have longevity in order to qualify for pop culture? Like, when I was a kid, the original Batman movie, the Tim Burton Batman, came out and it blew up. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere. It was huge. Everyone was talking about it. There was merch like everywhere you went. And then it just went away.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it still was pop culture. Like, I think it still qualifies.
Yeah, I don't think that to be pop culture that it needs to have longevity. In
Right.
fact, I think that like at least like 2/3 of pop culture disappears from the
For sure.
collective consciousness.
That's
you
the
know?
stuff I find interesting.
Yeah.
The stuff that like was so huge that you thought it would be around forever and
Yeah.
then it just vanished.
Mhm.
I think with Gen Z though, and I agree, I don't think that to be pop culture it has to have like longevity. I think if I'm taking a movie and defining it as like this is the thing, then it should have longevity. Especially when you live with my generation where things blow up all the time. There's
Yeah.
something constantly going viral. And so there's always, always, always a new movie, a new show, a new thing
Yes.
that is blowing up and happening. So it gets a lot harder to differentiate between what was viral because it was good and what was viral just because, you know, the way that our generation works, a lot of things go viral.
Yeah.
I have an answer now. I'm gonna go with like my childhood. What is representative
Yeah,
of
yeah,
like
yeah.
childhood? And
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the Goonies.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Yeah, because it's like all about whenever kids didn't have devices on them and they could just like go out and explore and get into trouble. I mean, I wish that had happened to me.
You could go hunt for treasure and be
Yeah.
pirates.
Because we always made pirate maps and like buried some stupid piece of shit and like, oh my god. Yeah, I would say the Goonies would represent like pop culture childhood for me.
Mm-hmm. What about toys? Like, I think Gen X, when we were growing up, we were like kind of obsessed with things like changing color. There are two products that I'm thinking of specifically. One were a line of winter gear called Freaky Freezies. Freaky Freezies. They were, the ones that I had were mittens that when you went outside in the cold, they said, "I love snow" on them. But when they had, I think, just a heart on them normally, and then when you went out in the cold, it said "I" and snow showed
and then
up.
Eventually did it like permanently say
No.
"I love snow"? Oh,
No.
because I feel like a lot of the time that happens with that kind of thing.
That's funny. No, I used to put them in the freezer because
Because you didn't actually like to go outside.
no, I didn't. But I wanted them to also be cold, and I liked, this is so stupid. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I liked to make them cold and then lick off the words with my hot breath. Oh, I forgot all about that part.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I was a weird kid. So, and the other thing were hypercolor T-shirts. They were T-shirts, and they were always like neon colored.
Uh-huh.
And when you put your hand on it,
They
they would change
color.
color in that shape
Mhm.
of.
I mean, I've seen
Yeah.
them at some point before, but
Yeah.
I didn't remember the term.
Yeah, but they like blew up,
Hmm.
and then they were gone, just as fast as they.
I can imagine all the jokes that came from those.
Oh yeah, it was very inappropriate. I grew up in a very inappropriate era.
I can think of some that totally disappeared. They
Yeah.
were around for a couple years, and like nobody knows what they are anymore because they were so lame.
Oh, dang.
But they were like everywhere in my like elementary school. They were called Pogs.
Yes,
You-
I
do you
know what you're
those are?
talking about.
They're just
They're
little
little bottle
cardboard
caps.
discs.
Yes.
And you like,
What the hell were those?
it was a game. I never had any, and I never.
Was it
I
like?
thought that they were. I thought that the disc came from bottles because Pog is a drink.
No,
The
these were.
toys were
Yeah.
just like cardboard
Oh,
discs.
interesting.
I'm gonna
with,
say
like,
something
different
that's gonna make
pictures
me
on
sound so old. Was it like Tiddlywinks?
them. I don't know what that is, but I've heard of it before.
I feel like I've heard of
where you would
Tiddlywinks,
like,
yeah.
did you, to play the game, would you have like your Pog on the table and then you'd take another Pog and like press on it to make it
Yeah.
fly? That's Tiddlywinks.
You would, but there was also like a thing where there was like a master Pog that was heavier, and you like. I never actually knew how to play. I just like watched other kids play. Maybe that's why I thought it was so lame.
So it's really interesting to go down the Pog rabbit hole because those Pog is like a slang term, at least it was, that got very popular for my generation, and it came from Twitch, where Pog basically means like, oh, cool, or oh, sick, like that's something that's good, right?
Why?
Because a streamer was doing a stream where he was playing with those old Pog cards. And I think he kept on saying, like, oh, Pog, to mean something that's good.
Okay.
And other people just picked it up, and it kind of spread over Twitch culture, and then it spread into the Generation Z as a whole.
I wasn't expecting that. Tell me about slime.
Okay. I was never allowed to have it. I'm so sad. I was so sad.
Oh.
My mother never let me have slime because it's a mess.
It is?
It's, yeah, if it's created poorly, then it can be a mess. It's sticky.
Don't you make it yourself, though? Isn't that the whole thing?
So yeah, you can, but if you're an elementary schooler making it yourself, there's a bunch of different recipes for it, but a lot of them involve like shaving cream and glue and borax and a bunch of different stuff. And I think that she was afraid of it getting on furniture and on walls because
That's
if you
fair.
make it too sticky, then
Yeah.
it'll get everywhere.
Okay.
But yeah, so slime was something I was never really allowed to have permanently. I always made it at birthday parties and then was forced to throw it away. So I was never able to play with slime. I did watch the slime videos on YouTube though.
Oh, did millennials have a version of slime?
There was we never. I mean, in my life, we never like made it, but there was a toy that you could buy called Gak.
Oh, I remember Gak. It was like a Nickelodeon thing,
Maybe, I'm not sure.
I feel like.
Sounds like a Nickelodeon
It
thing.
does sound like it would be from there, but it like you could buy. It was like a little egg-shaped plastic container, and you just had like a ball of like the sticky, slimy Gak inside.
And then, like, it would make, like, fart noises, right? When you pressed it into the container.
There's something like that.
So I'm
Like
thinking of something
the
else.
point of it wasn't the fart noises, but you probably could manage to do it.
That would have been the point for me. We had magic sand.
Yes.
Magic sand.
Magic sand.
Which
was this. You had to play with it in water. That's why it was magic. And then in the water, you could like build it up and make things. But then when you took it out, it was just dry sand.
Oh, okay.
Magic sand.
I would have loved that. I don't know.
I think we
didn't
should
have
try and
any.
get you some. I'm going to find you magic sand. I think you really would have liked it.
Go scouring on eBay for magic sand.
It must still exist
Oh, absolutely.
somewhere.
Yeah.
I think someone still would have
Yeah.
some.
I think I've seen people selling it
Mhm.
online. Yeah, because it's hydrophobic sand, right? That's like the thing.
It must be. I didn't think of it as hydrophobic.
Well,
but-
it's because I saw like some Instagram reel and people were giving the seller a hard time, being like, "How can the sand not be wet?" And the seller was like, "Because it's hydrophobic."
I feel like I could make a mess with that.
Let's make a mess.
Please. That sounds like so much fun.
We should have like had a visual
Oh, like a
portion
show
of this
and tell.
of this show. Of
Oh,
this episode.
that would have been really good. I would have brought in my garbage pail kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't still really have anything that I would call pop culture from my childhood, but I would have thrown like game systems in there too, like the original Nintendo and Sega Genesis and the original Sony PlayStation. I had all of those.
You did? I had an Atari.
My grandfather had an Atari, and
Yeah.
I loved playing it at his house.
Yeah.
You know what's so interesting about Atari? Talking about pop culture, this is another little bucket of knowledge that I learned, and I was shocked. So the founder of Atari is the same guy who would go on and found Chuck E. Cheese.
That does not surprise me in any way, shape, or form. I worked at a Blockbuster Video that was right next door to a Chuck E. Cheese, and kids would just come in and
my
barf all over the kids section.
Yeah.
I cleaned up so much Chuck E. Cheese barf.
Oh,
Chuck E. Cheese always made me sick without
Yeah.
fail. Without fail.
Yeah.
And I've had like crappy pizza before and it does nothing to me, but Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, it's very
Is it
special.
a combination of kids running around and eating crappy pizza. Too?
I think so.
Yeah.
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 I think it's the perfect storm.
There were Chuck E. Cheese's were around when I was a kid, but I never went to one ever.
Ever?
Never.
You never saw the scary mechanical mouse?
I mean, I've seen pictures of them, but
Horrifying.
It is horrifying.
Yeah.
I think my generation has such a different outlook of Chuck E. Cheese because you have the childhood memory version of Chuck E. Cheese, and then you have the post FNAF Chuck E. Cheese where little elementary schoolers want to be little jerks, and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, these animatronics are totally haunted, guys! They're gonna kill you."
They are.
I mean, yeah, those things are weird and give me the creeps.
Well, and
So-
most of them would stop working. Like there was in the Chuck E. Cheese, there was always like one of the guitar playing mice, like one eye was always open and and one was closed all the time. You just thought like, oh, this is terrible. This is a terrible place. But what Atari games did you play?
Pong.
Pong. Yeah.
What was the one? There was one where there was like it might have been like aliens like digging through ground, and you had to avoid something that was coming at you. I don't remember. What
Not
that was
Space
called.
Invaders.
Is,
It sounds like Galaga.
might have started with a G actually.
Yeah.
Is it Galaga?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I also played Space Invaders, and there was Donkey Kong.
Yeah. What about Pitfall Harry?
No, I don't know that one.
Oh. It was like Indiana Jones.
Ooh.
Yeah. So you'd like run and you'd get on a vine and leap
nice.
over. Yeah. And then you could run the course backwards, which was always fun. That was one of my favorites.
That seems advanced for an Atari game.
Yeah.
Being able to run the course backwards.
I think it was like a bonus feature. I don't think they intended it that way. You didn't like get anything for doing it.
I have a question. Did either of you know Gem?
She's truly outrageous. Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe, probably.
Jim, she's truly outrageous. Truly, truly outrageous.
She was in a band with.
Yeah. It was a cartoon.
No, I don't know this one.
It's too bad.
So another
It is too bad.
another piece of like I don't want to say like my lore, but like my family, we did not get cable until I was probably 8 or 9 years old. So I did not watch Disney Channel or Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network until I was 8 or 9 years old. So it's kind of interesting. Like I grew up, the Saturday morning cartoons that I watched was like Busy Town Mysteries. And then I think we had Netflix, so I watched Phineas and Ferb a lot. But other than that, it was mainly on DVDs. So it was interesting because when I was a kid, I kind of felt this disconnect because everybody talked about what Disney Channel show they liked, but I didn't have access to Disney Channel.
Yeah.
There was no Disney Channel.
No. No.
Whenever we were growing up. That's pretty recent.
Yeah. But Nickelodeon was a huge thing, though.
Yeah. We didn't have cable, so I was just watching like Saturday morning broadcasts. and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, on Nickelodeon, the green slime, you know how people get slimed? Do you know where that originated from?
There was like a game show.
It's a wasn't
Right.
it a
Actually, the
game
game, no, it comes before that. So the
Oh,
game
yeah.
show's Double Dare.
Double
you're thinking
Dare,
of,
yes.
hosted by Mark Summers. I wanted to be on Double Dare so bad. But the sliming actually originated from a show called You Can't Do That on Television. And it was a Canadian sketch show for kids. And when you said, I don't know, that's when you would get slimed. You Can't Do That on Television was like magic. They would do this whole bit where they'd be in lockers and they'd like come out of the locker, like a set of high school lockers,
my
and they'd be
God.
like, hey, Christine. And the other one would come out, yeah, Moose. And then they would like do a bit, kind of like Laugh-In, but for kids. Do you know what Laugh-In is?
I do
You know what
not.
Laugh-In is. Kind of, sort of?
No.
Really?
No, yeah.
Oh, Laugh-In is like a 1960s sketch comedy show, and they would open, like one of the bits would be they would do all these jokes, and there'd be all these go-go dancers like in between segments. Like they'd tell a joke, and then there'd be all these go-go dancers.
There was a sketch comedy show for kids whenever I was in elementary school, middle school maybe, called All That on Nickelodeon.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
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 What do you think is like a pop culture thing that all three of us could agree on?
That is pop culture for all of our generations.
Yeah, that like fell.
Other than Queen.
I would say Harry Potter or Star Wars. Those are my two.
Harry Potter was the first thing I thought of because I feel like it belongs to the millennials,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like
but the generation before and after really also
Like really got
Yeah.
into
loved
it.
them.
I
Yeah.
think the interesting thing about my generation, we're not into Harry Potter like the book series. We're into the Harry Potter that exists between the lines. Like there's
Like the fan fiction?
yeah.
Oh.
So, okay, to be real with y'all, I'm not the biggest fan of Harry Potter. I read the books. There's a big debate in like my generation, is Percy Jackson or Harry Potter better? My vote goes to Percy Jackson. The author's also not a TERF, so,
Yeah.
you know.
I know.
So-
I know. That was so disappointing to
Yeah.
find out.
J.K. Rowling, not a very great person,
Nope.
has said some really bad thing
Yeah.
about trans people,
Yep.
has said some really bad things about Jewish people.
Yeah.
So, just gonna put that out there real quick before I start talking about
Oh,
why my
yeah.
generation likes Harry Potter.
Mhm.
It is not because of the work that J.K. had done.
Mhm.
Instead, my generation is more into the Marauders, which is the generation before. We're a lot more interested in, let's see if I can remember all of their names: Remus Lupin, Sirius Black, and then James Potter, Lily Potter, and the Marauders, right? And the really big reason for that is because of fan fiction, and it's because of one specific fan fiction called, I believe it's called All the Young Dudes, and it's a Marauders fan fiction that is between Remus Lupin and Sirius Black, which is a very popular fanship,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people found that and really enjoyed it. There's been some people who critique it for saying that it's a little bit of a it can be semi one note at times. I've never read it, but I think a lot of people have taken that and loved it, and then from that spawned an entirely different fandom that is so separated from the original Harry Potter.
That's so fascinating.
And it's why I believe that the strongest part of Harry Potter is not the characters or the plot, but the world.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
definitely. I do want to say, though, when I started reading the first Percy Jackson book, I was like, this is just Harry Potter. But
Kind of.
This is Greek mythology Harry Potter.
It
it's the
starts
same-
out that way.
It's the same tropes over
Yeah.
and over again. Like, child loses parent, becomes magical.
Becomes special.
Yeah,
Becomes
has big adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would also say though that a lot of people call Harry Potter just magical Star Wars, actually.
Yeah.
Because they both follow the first book of both Percy Jackson and Harry Potter and Star Wars all follows the hero's journey pretty
Yeah.
much to a T.
Yes.
So like, yeah, of course there's gonna be similarities between all three of those.
Mhm.
The similarities between Percy Jackson and Harry Potter get a little bit less as you go along.
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
Percy Jackson's written in first person.
Yeah.
Which has a totally different feel.
it has
than
a
the Harry
totally
Potter
different
books.
feel. And
Yeah.
Percy Jackson, unlike Harry Potter, never turns into an annoying protagonist. I suffered through
The
Order
last
of the
books.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Order
He's
of the Phoenix onwards, Harry just turns
so
insufferable.
moody. Yeah. Did you read Harry Potter? Was that like your jam?
I read the first 3, I think.
So the answer is no.
I didn't read I didn't read the rest of them, but like all of the books that I was reading were like that, but the protagonist was a girl.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I was much more interested in those ones.
Yeah.
Well, what books are those?
The Fear Street books,
I don't know those.
R.L. Stein.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
Send me a list.
Um,
Put it in the show
there are
notes.
like hundreds and thousands of those.
Really?
Not thousands, but there are definitely like
Speaking of like hundreds of books, yeah, I know what you're talking about, and I
Yeah.
know R.L. Stein.
Mhm.
So
I don't.
and they were just like basically it was like Twilight books before Twilight.
Huh. Really?
And there were just a lot of those that were around, like many, many different authors, many different series, many different I don't know.
Is it like the Babysitters Club kind of thing?
I love the
No,
Babysitter's
like,
Club.
It's all like the ones that I read were all like supernatural.
Oh,
and,
no,
like,
I meant more like
Super long series, multiple
Super-
authors.
yeah. the structure of it.
The Fear Street, I would say. I mean, R.L. Stein is listed as the author for all of those. I don't know if there
Okay.
was some like mix of
Okay,
other
yeah.
people doing some of the writing or not, but R.L. Stein wrote all of them apparently. And
Fear Street?
Fear Street.
Huh.
He also wrote the Goosebumps books.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which were for like younger people.
Right.
And the Fear Street ones were YA, you know.
I don't think I can't do it. Too delicate. The darkest I could go was Christopher Pike books.
Oh, Christopher Pike was darker than
Oh, really?
R.L. Stein.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They were good.
I read Christopher Pike books.
You did?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Did you read Remember Me?
Yes.
Oh, I think I'm going to take it out from the library.
That one was so sad.
And it's a
it's a
three-book?
trilogy.
Yeah.
And it was all sad. All of it.
Yeah, but it was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love following characters.
Mm-hmm.
Sigh.
I'm curious because I read every single one of these books that I could get my hands on, and my mom has some of them. And to this day, the oldest book in my collection is from this series. It's a 1930 something book. It's number 2. Did any of you guys read a lot of Nancy Drew?
Oh.
My mom had a lot of those, and so I read some of her books,
Mhm.
but it was never like the book
Yeah.
that was never like my first choice. I always wanted like real supernatural,
Mm-hmm.
like not like she discovers that the thing that was supposed to be supernatural was just someone doing
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
wasn't
wanted
big.
the ghosts and the vampires and like the that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I was never
That's
big
my
on
jam.
mystery. I know that is your jam.
Mm-hmm.
The creepier, the better.
Uh-huh. For sure.
This is off topic, but do you like believe in ghosts? In like,
I wish that I did. I wish that I believed in all of the stuff that I read about, that
Yeah.
I like reading about, but I don't actually believe in any of that stuff.
And you've never had any supernatural, like live supernatural experiences?
It's all stuff that I can be like shrug and say like it's just a coincidence, something
Yeah.
weird happened.
Yeah.
Like if something had happened to like beyond a doubt convince me, then I would obviously
Yeah.
believe it.
Right,
but
right.
Yeah. I think that's a healthy skepticism.
Yeah, I wish that I believed more though. I like would love to have that kind of like something outside of a normal.
Isn't your apartment haunted?
That's what I said before, but you know, I can still say like I can still look at it and say stuff might have just been falling off of shelves.
I was gonna say we can go get you a ghost.
Yeah, there were some weird things that were happening when I first moved in,
But they're done now.
they're done,
Okay.
and I can say like maybe stuff was just falling off of shelves randomly for no reason.
With no wind
Yeah.
and nothing. Okay.
Just a very, very localized earthquake just at your house.
Maybe I was just careless with a lot of stuff and didn't put it on in a way that was going to keep it from falling off, even though it never happened before
Or again.
or again.
So I take it that you do believe in ghosts.
I believe in everything pretty much. I believe in the possibility of everything. So I wouldn't say I don't believe in it, but I'd prefer not to, actually. I
Yeah.
don't like thinking about ghosts.
Yeah, no, ghosts scare me. We'll get more into this when we talk about religion.
Yeah.
But I'm Christian, but I also believe in ghosts, and oh my gosh, when we first moved into the house that we were in and like towards quarantine, there was a lot of weird stuff that was happening, and it was not very fun to live in a house where you hear footsteps outside of your room and whispers when when everybody else is asleep.
Oh, yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
No, yeah, I saw, and this might have been my eyes playing tricks on me, but there was this one time I was home alone, and, you know, my doorknob, the way that my house is set up, there's a front door and then there's a stairwell, and we have this little alcove where you can, like, stand and look down, right? And in the reflection of this gold doorknob, I could have sworn I saw a man in a suit standing there, and I turn
Whoa.
around and there's nobody there.
I see
So-
things out of the corner of my eye. I see people all the time.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it could have totally been like just my eyes playing tricks on me, but at the time it freaked me out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've had enough weird things happen in my life that, like, it's it's silly to not. It's like people who don't believe in aliens. I'm like, we're here. Have you looked in the ocean? Like that seems like aliens. And it just to think like we're here, nobody else could be anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. Just
I think that the idea like of believing that there's some kind of life on other planets, like I feel like there has to be. But I feel like that's more likely than
Ghosts and
ghosts, probably.
I would agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think aliens are much more likely than ghosts.
Than the supernatural.
I also believe in
which
aliens.
I wish I believed in the supernatural.
You don't believe in it at all?
Not really. I mean, like,
Not like weird psychic-y stuff?
I try to suspend my belief whenever I can. I try to suspend my disbelief whenever I can. That's what I meant to say. But I can always convince myself, like, that there are enough reasons to not believe that it was real or something was supernatural. So, yeah.
This is like a whole other podcast. I want to talk about this.
We can talk about this with the karma episode.
Or the vibes.
And speaking of karma, can I please talk about Taylor Swift now?
Oh, I mean, we can't talk about pop culture without talking about Taylor Swift.
I was
I'm
like-
going to settle in, though.
When you said that we were doing pop culture, I was like, I need to talk about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I am a huge Swiftie. I'm not like to the point where if you're criticizing her, I'll rip your head off. But
Right.
like, I love her music, and yeah, I love Taylor Swift.
Do you feel like there's a disconnect between her persona and who she really is?
You know, it's interesting because I recently watched the Eras Tour movie with a friend of mine, and we actually brought that up about how Taylor Swift is really good at making you believe like you actually know her. And because she's very vulnerable when you see her live shows. And whether or not that is targeted and practiced vulnerability or genuine vulnerability is really hard to spot.
I would guess it's targeted.
Yes.
Do you
most
think it
likely.
matters?
But at the same time,
I think this might be a conversation to have offline, but I mean, the stuff that I've read about happening between like her, I don't know if it's her agents or whoever is like running her business, like suing and copywriting and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Like, it definitely is not a girl next door kind of like
No.
relationship with fans.
Right.
no, definitely not. I think that it's really, really hard because she's like a billionaire now, right? Like she's huge. It's probably biggest artist out there right now. I would say some people compare her to like Prince and Queen, and I wouldn't go that far. But I think as of right now, she is, just because of the amount of money she's grossed and the fact that she's actively on tour versus artists like Rihanna, which I know has grossed a similar amount of money, who's not on tour right now, and as far as I know, is not releasing new music actively.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so like, there's a lot of things because on one hand, I really enjoy her music, right?
Yeah.
And I enjoy, even if it's fake vulnerability, I like her persona of somebody who's kind and who is who's vulnerable with her fans. And I think she genuinely does love her fans. However, there are very valid criticisms of her being exclusively a white feminist, right? Like she's made an entire documentary, and a good section of that documentary focused on her being politically active and being a feminist, and that's great and that's something that's good, but if that is your branding, then you need to like be very vocal about that. So I think that there's valid criticisms there. I think there's valid criticisms about her carbon emissions, although I will say I think she gets a lot more flack for it than other people do and who do the exact same thing. I think celebrities in general just need to be
Yeah.
Yeah.
criticized for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much it's like the suing and copyright things is her and how much is her team though, and I think that can get complicated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, it's her name that's being used, and is the creator in some way of this material, and going after like small people on Etsy is just kind of like antithesis, it seems to me,
Yeah.
of like being like a homegirl with your fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's hard because on one hand, I can see why you wouldn't want like fans to be selling their own made things and you would want them to buy your official stuff, and like I can see that there is a genuine copyright concern there. However, Taylor, you're a billionaire. Do you
Right.
really
It's-
need that much extra
just
merch sales?
Seems a little petty.
Right.
Yeah, for like people who are super fans who like love Taylor Swift and are just want to like make a little like cross stitch shake it off thing.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, she is not the person who coined the term shake it off.
Oh,
Right.
no.
Right.
But it's copyrighted to her now.
really?
Oh,
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
I know that she had the song copyrighted. I didn't realize that you could have
The
like
phrase.
interesting.
I think that Taylor Swift, like you were saying, you can't map Taylor Swift onto like Queen. I think the person that you could map her onto from my generation is Madonna. I think that they have like a similar trajectory, though because the tech has changed so much, I
Right.
think it's hard to do it. But I think like for a 1-to-1, I feel like it's Madonna, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I feel like Britney Spears could
Britney
be thrown in
Spears
there,
should
too.
be on there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I'm
Britney
very...
Spears kind of had a fall from grace kind of early on, though.
Yeah.
Well, that's because Britney Spears, from what I've read, did not want to do any of the
No,
things.
she was
and
a
she was, like,
hostage in her
She was
life.
very
Yeah.
much under control of somebody else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't hold anything against her. for
No.
that.
Right,
Poor
right.
Britney.
Yeah.
Poor Britney.
Poor Britney.
I'm very interested to see how much staying power Taylor Swift will have. So, like, 30 years down the line, when she's not releasing music
Yeah.
anymore, and it's like music my mom used to listen to, right?
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see if the criticisms of her will start to decrease, because I think people are so critical of her.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the valid criticisms here. I'm talking about the like unnecessary hate.
Yeah, people love to hate Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video the other day that was saying like nobody is normal about Taylor Swift. And I think like some people are, but for the most part, yeah. I
Yeah.
see people who either love her like me, although I wouldn't consider myself a crazy person who's would never criticize her, right? But and then I see people who just absolutely hate her and hate her fans and like
It's because she's a woman. I'm sorry to say it, but like I think about that all the time because the way that she just got demonized for being on television during football season
yes.
was
Like this past season.
so
Yeah, that was
intense.
crazy.
It's so intense. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Leave her alone. She's not the one that's putting the camera on herself. People know she sells tickets and sells views, and the hate sells. You know, like
Yeah.
leave her alone. Like, knock it off. And it's because she's a woman.
Yeah. Because when Jason Kelsey showed up and took his shirt off and was cheering for his brother and being loud and obnoxious in a good way.
Just
I am
being
not
extra.
I'm not a Jason Kelsey hater. I love
No.
Jason Kelsey. But like when he showed up for his brother, you know, everybody was like, "Oh, he's a great supportive brother." And then if Taylor Swift is just there,
Right.
and they're like,
Right. How dare she? I want her off my television. People like, grow up.
Yeah.
But on a more positive note, this past football season saw a bridge, and it saw a new demographic for football, and it saw a new demographic for Taylor Swift's music. I think it's great that, you know, so many more women and girls are getting into this sport because, hey, Taylor Swift likes it, or Taylor Swift's dating a football player. And I think it's great that so many more dads is like, I want to bond with my daughter.
Right.
Let's listen to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's awesome. Yeah. I wish that the culture of the NFL was better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
Definitely. But, you know, It's not.
No.
But I'm for opening doors wherever we can, you know, and let people in.
And maybe
And make
getting
their own.
more women involved with the NFL will help to change the culture.
Yeah,
For sure. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, we're coming to time, friends.
Great.
It's time for the
Okay.
You said you have one.
I
said
have
you had
one.
one.
Yeah. Because this is something that I have been criticized about multiple times.
Interesting.
And I want to know what y'all beef is with me using ellipses in text messages.
I do that.
How do you use ellipses?
I will put it at the end.
Immediately accusatory.
Because no. Because here's the thing: I will use ellipses too in text messages
Yeah.
at the very end
Yes.
of my message.
Yes.
To be like, it's like me trailing off.
That's what I
Yeah,
that's,
that's
what
what-
I use it as. And
That's what ellipses are for.
Yeah, yeah.
agree, but I have been told that it's like aggressive. That it means that like it leaves the other person like thinking that I'm saying something bad.
Oh, interesting. Because I'll use ellipses as like it's a way to pose a question for that other person to answer when I don't want it to be obviously be a question.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
obviously there's like a question mark, but like I'll do the ... question mark. I'll be like, or you know, whatever.
Sometimes I will use it to mean like, you know how this sentence ends. So I'm
Yes.
just not even gonna.
Okay, so it's not a how of the week. We're all aligned.
We're all aligned, I think.
Yeah, I find it interesting that people are saying that that's accusatory because
Or
I
aggressive or
Yeah.
Yeah, look it up on TikTok. Yeah,
Oh, it's TikTok.
yeah, it's TikTok telling me.
Hmm.
And some
TikTok is
people.
telling you.
TikTok is telling me. Yeah, that I shouldn't be using ellipses. I love them. I'm not giving them up.
Yeah, I mean that's a legitimate form of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The only reason that I could like think of that would justify it is that now when the text bubble comes up that is 3 dots, that means that somebody's writing and then it disappears and you're waiting. That feels aggressive.
I don't
you know what I'm
like
talking-
looking at those 3
Yeah.
little dots. Those are the worst.
I could see how if somebody was that was their main association with an ellipsis, that it would mean like a bad thing.
Maybe it's people who don't like reading and writing who think that ellipses are bad things.
I think you're probably right.
It also like to be used in text messages how we use it. We kind of it's a way to force the other person to answer your question.
I mean,
At least for me.
So I think maybe when you're asking a question using them, but I mean, a lot of the time it's just like,
you know what's up.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'll end it with like, I'll say like, so ...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like, we'll see. ...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that
Is aggressive.
not so much aggressive, but like I would get anxious saying that message because of the
Interesting.
because it's like a we'll see. So it's yeah, that I can see not so much aggressive, but that I think if I got a message like that, it would spark a little bit of anxiety in me. I'm also just in general an anxious person though. So like, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think the ellipsis specifically in that context creates an unknown. We'll see about what happens and we don't know what's going to happen.
That's interesting. For me, I think it denotes it's like sarcasm. It's like putting if I could put like a sarcastic filter on something.
I can definitely.
Do you guys know what tone indicators are? Because you mentioned putting a sarcastic filter.
What's a tone? I mean,
Okay, so a tone indicator, they were used a lot during the pandemic, and then they've because everybody was talking online, and they've kind of filtered out. But essentially, what you do, and there's a bunch of them, is that you put a slash, and then you write exactly what you mean. So / positive / sarcastic / not serious / no one here. Like if you're vague.
yeah.
If you're like I'm so mad at this person, and then you hit / no one here, it's like to calm people's anxiety. And it was used originally to help people who are neurodivergent or with autism who like now we're forced to talk online and who struggle with tone enough in person, and then everybody struggles with tone online. So
Yeah.
for somebody with neurodivergency and autism who struggles with tone, like that would be awful. So people started using tone indicators. And plus, they're just like genuinely helpful, even for people who don't have autism or
Yeah.
don't have to like decipher tone. So
I feel like that's what I use emojis for.
see, because my generation, some emojis have turned sarcastic.
Right, and they mean something different. Yeah, I know.
So that's why you do like the slash positive, the slash serious.
It's
the
very
yeah.
clear.
Yeah.
It's nice. So
Huh.
yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Well, I learned something.
I miss tone indicators. I kind of wish that they were more popular again, but I think as people have gone back to talking face to face, they've kind of filtered out because not as many people are talking only online anymore.
Yeah.
But I think they're a good thing. You know what I mean? They're good for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a tool that maybe it would be good to bring back for sure.
Mm-hmm. All right. This was good. Do you want to do the outro or do you want me to use the outro? Do you want me to just use an outro?
I mean, you
Then
can.
you don't have to do it again. I
Yeah.
could just use the same one. Yeah. Okay, then we can just say goodbye.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Yay!
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the XYZ Dictionary. If you've enjoyed this episode, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Spotify and have a few minutes, leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps. You can catch the video version of this episode on the New Mexico Public Access channel. We will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.
The podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome.